How do you get confidence when you're starting something new? This is a question I've been thinking a lot about when I'm on the precipice of starting something new. At work, I'm starting to take over as the engineering lead of a very new initiative at the company, and it's something that's completely new. In all my previous jobs, internships, I never got the opportunity to really lead a team. Yeah, I've led teams before in smaller scale, less impactful settings, but never in a really professional full-time setting. And when I think about it, it's still pretty early in my career. I'm only 2 years into the workforce at a ripe age of 25 and already leading an engineering effort for this new product we're developing. And as I'm starting to take the reins and take the responsibilities to lead the development, I think to myself, what makes me think I could do this? And that leads me to the confidence question I posed earlier. How do I get the confidence before starting something new or before starting this new project? And when I think about confidence, I think of there's a spectrum in how confidence can be generated from. On one side of the spectrum, there requires a lot of evidence, and on the other side of the spectrum is just the complete opposite of no evidence. So when I think about the two spectrums, I think about where I lie. And I find I tend to lie on the side in which I require a lot of evidence. It's the idea that I don't feel right until I have a stack of undeniable proof that I am who I say I am. That quote is from the Modern Wisdom podcast or from Hormozy, one of the two. But it's the idea that I could say to myself, I can do this thing because I have all these things I've done in the past. And that gives me a high degree of confidence that I'm able to execute this new thing that I now found myself in. And I feel like I resort to this because it's kind of a no-brainer. It's making myself undeniably potent in terms of actually tackling whatever it is that I need to do. Now, of course, there lies a bit of lag there. And there's a lot of time that needs to be spent in terms of actually building the amount of evidence to prove to myself that I am who I say I am and I could do this new thing that I believe or that I'm trying to build up the belief that I could actually do. And the curation of evidence, sometimes I wonder, is, do I really need that evidence? Am I able to somehow shortcut my way and just get myself to blind belief in myself that I'm able to do that thing? Now, perhaps I could decrease the amount of evidence that I need or the quality of evidence that I need to eventually get there. But why I pose this question to myself of, am I able to decrease the amount of evidence, is that I still want the same final result of being confident in doing new things. And when I think about needing to build this evidence, I think about the additional overhead and kind of the additional preparation time I need to do before I actually do the thing and figure out whether I'm successful or whether I fail or whether I'm even suited out to do the thing in the first place. So that's kind of where I then think about the other side of the spectrum of having blind belief. And what does that feel like? Now, I see blind belief as the Nike slogan of the just do it. It's there's something you want to do and it doesn't really matter where your current situation. You're going to make some efforts to go do that. You don't really need all the stack of undeniable proof. You just have fundamental belief in yourself and you're just going to do it. And even if that belief seems irrational to other people, it somehow seems rational to you. It's the having the confidence or being able to clap at yourself or give yourself applause before anyone else is able to give applause to you. And it's able to do that without seeing a good performance, but is able to do it in the beginning and to cheer yourself on before you have ever made any progress. So I wonder if I could ever get there to stage of blind belief. And I'm not sure. Perhaps I think a little bit too deeply in terms of my own skill set and how I peg myself against this new thing that I'm trying to get. Now, of course, the spectrum of, or like the two poles of having evidence and having blind belief. It's just not a binary thing. Like, it's very much a spectrum. Then comes the question of how much evidence do I need before I believe in myself that I could do this thing, and what is the quality of evidence that I need before I actually do the thing. And these two are kind of like very, I guess, soft. Like, they could be changed. They're not like specifically I need to do X before I believe I could do Y, but it's more like a feeling of like I've done X before and that makes me feel confident I could do Y. So it's a little more soft versus actually concrete. And I feel like this is very important, at least having the confidence before doing something, because in the end, at least for me, it's going to be me at night alone wrestling with the idea that I need to do this new thing, and it's me accumulating all the stress behind doing that new thing, which I find that the confidence that I build helps suppress the fear and suppresses a little bit of the stress that makes me feel like I could fail. It's the belief in self, which I think is very important, whether there is confidence or whether there's evidence there or not, or is just completely blind. And in this frame, I tend to think that evidence is also a bit harder to build as well, just because as things are achieved, they tend to become normalized. So I find personally that my perception of self seems to be a little bit underestimated, because to me, everything that I've accomplished is now perfectly normal. I have lifted certain weight, but when you lift that certain weight, like for example, when I think about deadlifts, my max deadlift was 470, and I regularly train at around 4 plates, like 405, 415. Now, to a probably average person or even like a more intermediate gym goer, those seem like crazy numbers. But for me, it seems really normal since that's the weight I train at every week. And that's even saying less because I go to a powerlifting gym and you see people regularly deadlifting over 500 pounds. So it's kind of this frame of reference also that, at least for me, makes me feel like I'm completely normal and I don't have special traits or special pieces of evidence that actually builds a self-belief that makes me believe that I could do this new thing. And it's at this stage it's really helpful, I find, to get some sort of validation from some external person. And even though I mentioned that it's important to be the first one applauding for yourself, I find that it helps to give another frame of reference of when you have someone else also helping applaud to you after you start to applaud for yourself. A good example of this is recently, so on the project I'm working on, in which we're starting a new initiative and we're hoping to break ground in a new industry. I was talking to one of our consultants, one of our external consultants, who is an entrepreneur and has achieved a lot for his age. And to be frank, is doing a lot of things I actually want to do. And we were just talking about life, and I was asking him about like entrepreneurship and asking him like just like how he did it and like what his story was and lessons he learned. And I guess through all this, it came out that, at least for me, I still have the fear that I'm stupid. Like, I have that deep-rooted fear that I'm dumb. And he kind of just cut through it all and said, well, I don't think you're dumb. Like, you're definitely not dumb because you're leading this project, and he gave me many, many valuable insights when we're actually working on this project together. And he's speaking as a successful or decently successful entrepreneur who is like a relatively like expert in this field that we're working in. So he is kind of the person I want to be, or at least like he has things that I want to have or that I want to achieve and I want to try. And he's slightly older than me, but still pretty young. And he's giving me this, I guess, this applaud, this frame of reference that, yeah, I'm not dumb, even though I fear that in myself. I have this external source of validation that, yeah, you're not dumb, and it's fine. And, you know, the questions you ask me about starting companies, you should do that because it seems like you have the capability to do so. And perhaps that is some evidence that I am at least going in the right direction. I wouldn't say it as undeniable evidence, but it definitely helps break down the underestimate of my own self-perception that I think I have in myself. And I guess when I think about pursuing new things, especially like breaking new ground, I find that I tend to think of myself as Icarus in the Greek mythology story, where Icarus and his father were flying away from a prison with makeshift wings made out of wax. And Icarus, being the child, was flying close to the sea and flying high in the sky because he didn't really understand the fragility of the wings. And as he flew too close to the sun, the wax melted and his wings fell apart, and he fell to his death in the sea below. And the father had to just carry on and fly home in grief, of course. So sometimes I wonder if I'm like Icarus, if I'm ever flying too high, and if I'll ever hit the sun and my wings will melt and I'll kind of plummet to my downfall. And that's kind of looming at the back of my head of when I think about achieving new, or like chasing new things, or breaking new ground in an area that I'm not familiar with, and wrestling with unconfidence. Like, will my wings hold? Will I break? Am I going too far? Am I going to a place where I'm not supposed to be? And I'm not sure that there's like a fully silver bullet for this. I think the solution to this is some iterative thought over time to remind myself that I'm not an idiot, and to remind myself that failing isn't that bad. So the first one is to do things to remind myself that I'm actually capable and I'm not like dumb, at least the thing that I think myself as. And the avenues to do this could be pretty straightforward, actually. It's like hitting new PRs in the gym to remind myself that I'm not weak and that I'm still improving. It's to break out of my shell and message people who I probably usually wouldn't message. Is, for example, messaging sales, or is messaging safety teams I've done in the past, which makes me feel like I'm not this shy kid I think I am, or I'm not this unconfident person I think I am. But even though I may think I am, I'm still doing the things a confident person would do. And if I'm doing the actions a confident person would do, then I probably am not unconfident, or at least as unconfident that I think I am. Now, the second tool I've been thinking a little bit more on that I think would be pretty cool is the idea of an alter ego. And this is popularized by Kobe with his Mamba mentality. And I find that the alter ego is kind of like a jail-free card, or like a get-out-of-jail-free card, where I could leverage confidence while still not detracting from the humbleness of being aware of personal faults. So it's knowing that I have all these mistakes, and it's knowing some of the stupid thoughts that I make, and it's knowing my imperfections, but just saying, I don't care, and giving in to whatever like overconfident, just blind belief person that I am, or that person that's in me, and just saying, okay, I don't care about everything. I'm just going to do this thing, and I think I'm going to win. No matter how irrational that seems like. And it kind of combines the whole aspect of evidence as well as that blind belief, that faith. And Kobe with his Mamba mentality is actually a really good example. So he has like all the evidence to back up that he is like a very phenomenal basketball player. Like there's mountains of stories of him training and practicing very early in the morning, or him not going out at night, where other basketball players would kind of look at in awe and just say, I can't do what he does, and come to the realization that they can't win. So Kobe does have that stack of undeniable proof that he is this great basketball player. But then during crunch time, like when the game's on the line or championships or something are on the line, that's that blind belief that he's just going to win. And yeah, sure, he has all the evidence, but of course, when you're on the court, it doesn't really matter how much you practice. It just matters whether or not you make that shot. And that's where the blind belief comes in of, I don't care about everything that happened in the game. I don't care about everything I've done in the past. I'm just going to make the shot. And that's that blind belief. And when taking on the alter ego, I feel like I could free myself from all the restraints that I have to put on myself. It feels like I'm breaking away a little bit from the analogy of Icarus. It doesn't feel like I'm flying too close to the sun. In fact, it doesn't even feel like there is a sun, and I'm just going to keep on flying upwards. It feels like I don't really have to keep with the veil of being humble or dotting my I's and crossing my T's because I fear that I'm doing something stupid. It's giving into that supreme confidence, that kind of killer mentality that I'm just going to do this thing and I'm going to smash out of the park and I don't care. So I find that the alter ego is something that I want to use a little bit more, especially as I step into the office and I work or step into meetings and I need to perform. And I think it's something that I should practice a little bit more regularly. As a kid, I did have an alter ego that I used for tests and just for study in general. But I find that as a kid, with a lot of energy and being really ignorant on the world and giving in to more toxic traits, that I just use like a permanent alter ego, which I guess in that case isn't even an alter ego anymore. It's just ego. So at least now that I know more, I can't just have a perma kind of activated alter ego anymore. I feel like I feel bad because I have a little bit more personal like intuition that I know if I'm in the right direction. So now it's giving into an alter ego and it's curating that again. And when I'm actually pursuing things now with an alter ego and the pieces of evidence that at least give myself continual confidence that I could actually tackle a thing. A good exercise is also picturing like the downsides of things. Like if I am Icarus and I do fly too close to the sun and the waxes on my wings do melt off and I do plummet, what is that plummet going to look like? And I find that the brain often defaults into the worst case scenario. And maybe that's from like just genetics and evolution. Like humans were designed to be scared of the rustling bush because it could just spell death if it's like a bear behind there. So I find that my brain at least is pretty hardwired to think about like the most negative downside. Like if something happens, I'm going to immediately get fired. But I don't really take many steps forward after that. Like I don't game it out a couple steps, which probably then actually gives the most valuable insights to give me the confidence to not fear the failures. Like if I take this analogy of, or if I think about my current scenario of working on this project and leading this project, and I say the project doesn't go well, like what's going to happen? Well, either I get fired or I don't get fired. If I don't get fired, I don't think that's a really bad situation. If I do get fired, then okay, then what's the worst thing that can happen when I do get fired? Well, I have savings, I have a good runway, I don't burn that much money, so I could self-sustain for a good amount of time. I also know that my skills are pretty marketable. I could find another job. Maybe it'll take like a month or two of a lot of hard work, but I know I could do it. And knowing that I won't be dead if I get fired, or knowing that I won't be completely homeless when I get fired, lessens the severity of the prospect of being fired, and thus lessens the prospect of failure. It feels like I'm not plunging to my death, but now just falling a couple hundreds of meters down until the wax solidifies again and I get to fly again. So it's really gaming it out to make myself realize that, yeah, it's actually not that bad. And is using the combination of the evidence, the alter ego, and gaming it out to now try to build or try to push me towards having more of that blind belief in myself that I could execute on this new initiative I'm on in terms of being a project lead. But yeah, that has been episode 20 of the Nobody Yet podcast, and I'll see you next week.